Hi everyone. Today, let's talk about the Fed comments. And quickly, we'll talk about the AMD earnings. Then, of course, we have to go over these brutal charts. And we have to go over how much money I lost today as the market tanked. If you like trading stocks and options and sometimes losing money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. Starting with the Fed comments, let's take a look at the changes. They say the Fed is now looking at the cumulative impact of their hikes so far, and that they understand the fact that these hikes do take time to impact the economy, which was kind of interpreted as they will be slowing their rate hikes into the future. Of course, this is still speculation, but that is kind of what was being said. Let's go through the comments specifically. You can see the changes here in red. They did raise the high end of what they anticipate to be their federal funds rate to 3.25% to 4%. So they did say that they're going to raise the target and that they could potentially stay there for longer to help beat down this inflationary beast. Otherwise, the rest of the comments were the same. I did watch the speech, and I do want to highlight the fact that he did say he's more willing to be tighter on monetary policy for longer than needed because they can use their monetary tools to help stimulate the economy, because he's more concerned about the fact if they don't do enough now to stem inflation, that the impacts to the economy will be much longer term versus their ability to stimulate an underperforming economy. On a more positive note, AMD did miss earnings, but they grew by 29%. Looking at the earnings, you can see they earned 67 cents per share versus 68 cents, with revenue slightly under expectations, but they still grew revenue by 29%. But net income fell 93% to $66 million because of their $49 billion acquisition of Xilinx. As a result of these earnings, the stock was up more than 6%. Of course, most of that fell today, as the overall stock market fell pretty dramatically after the Fed announcement. But overall, AMD is still putting up good results, and this is definitely a stock to put on your watch list. Moving over to the S&P 500, everything was going great in the midday. We even had a pretty decent pop on the announcement of the 75 basis points hike, all the way up here to 388. And I kind of thought that we might be able to sustain this. Then we had those Fed comments where he said the rates are going to go higher than expected. They might stay there longer than expected. And he's more willing to crash the economy than to allow inflation to get entrenched into this economy. So then we had big bars down, all the way down to 375. It looks like we held there a little bit after hours and then dipped. If this breaks down, there's absolutely more downside to come, down to 365, potentially even lower if we make new lows. I would be looking for that 347 to 350 range here on the S&P 500. Moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see very similar story, big bar up, all the way up to 277.78. Dipped all the way down to 265 though here at the end of hours. Didn't break through 265, so there's still potential for support. This is definitely a supply zone. Dipped down here previously on the CPI data, and then rallied pretty aggressively back up into that same region. 265 also held in the middle of October. We've interacted with it several times throughout October, so potential that this could hold. If it does not hold, absolutely more downside to come. Next levels of support is around 255, maybe 250 back down here. We make new lows and we get all the way down to support for these previous trend lines. It'd be closer to like 240, 245 or so. A lot of potential for downside if we break through this 265 range. If it holds up here, we might be in good shape. Hard to say at this point. Definitely keep an eye on it for tomorrow. Moving over to IWM. Got all the way down to the 144 EMA. Looks like it's still holding just barely. Stock is at 177.33. The EMA here is at 177.26. So we'll be looking for the break of that region, or maybe a slight dip to these previous highs we had here at 175. Hopefully we find some support in that zone. If we do not, the next major levels of support would be closer to that 164 range. But otherwise looking for this area to hold, maybe slightly below, and then get a continuation. If that does not happen, definitely be on the lookout for much lower lows. Moving over to AMD, we've been in this channel for quite a while after falling far. I know I've talked about this before, but this was a $108 stock, and it's currently at $58.50. The stock previously, right after earnings, was at $63.50. And then because of that big down move in the markets, we're back down here below support at $58.50. If we don't find support in any of these lower ranges, the next level of support to look for would be around $50.90, or even lower here down at about $50. So keep an eye out for that support. If it breaks through any of these levels here, it could be going much lower, down to $50 or so. Moving over to top gainers, we got Domino's Pizza, which apparently did not give a crap about the Fed decision. It rallied basically throughout the day, became the biggest pizza chain in the world, and got up to around $348 per share at one point before dipping back down to $388, still posting a positive day on a day where basically everything was down. Moving over to Boeing, another company that had a big day today. It finished after hours yesterday at about 142, got all the way up to 152 before closing around 147, still posting a positive day today, and it got just above these highs for a little bit. I would look for that further breakout if possible, but right now, still very bullish on this structure going forward. Moving over to the dollar, it did basically what you'd expected it to be. The opposite of the markets, it dipped down early in the comments and rallied on the further comments. There's absolutely potential that we could get a reversal at this level at 112.38 or so. If we do get a nice reversal here and it turns back down, that will be good for stocks. Definitely something that I'm watching. Getting into this supply zone that has held the dollar here previously. But if we get a breakout here, absolutely this could go much higher. Get in past this supply zone at 113.50. And if it gets past that, there's no telling where it's going to go. And as long as the dollar continues to rally, that will absolutely be bad for stocks. Moving over to J&K, and this is why I really wish this stock, you can see, dipped huge on the announcement, is kind of in a supply zone potentially, but definitely watch and see if this breaks through this 144 EMA at 89.15, sitting just 15 cents higher than that right now on that big red bar. If we get back into this range and back into this bullish structure, that would be great. There's still potential that it could find some support in here, but if this continues downwards, of course, that's going to be bad for growth and bad for stocks. Moving over to TLT, it basically did not really move that much based on this announcement, surprisingly. Went up a little bit like everything else, dipped down a little bit like everything else, but basically went sideways. We're at the same spot that we were here yesterday morning, and if this holds up in this range, that could be beneficial for stocks, and maybe the market is overreacting a little bit to these Fed comments. Moving over to the VIX, finishing up, the VIX basically went sideways again. We're in the same spot we were 4 days ago. We are starting to drift through this resistance line. I would like to see a big leg down. That should be good for stocks. But if we break through here and then we retest the 9 EMA and start to get some upward movement here in the VIX, that's definitely going to be bad for stocks. And you can see the momentum here on the MACD is not great. It is starting to cool off. If we start to see this turn to the bullish side, that's absolutely going to be bad for stocks. And then maybe we'll start to get that big correction that everyone keeps talking about, where we see a VIX that goes up into this like 45 range, where a lot of bear markets have ended. You can see back here in 2018, got the big COVID jump, and some of these movements in here got into the 40s, and then previously back here in 2015. So some of these big down movements in the markets have been capped off by a pretty high VIX number in that 45 range. And right now we've been hanging out in this 35 range, so we haven't gotten that big move down in markets and the big move up in the VIX. But if we do get a breakout here, that's definitely going to be a signal that we should be looking to stay out of the markets or be trading to the bear side. Moving over to my accounts here, you can see I got absolutely hammered today, down almost $2,000 on these accounts. My overall account value is higher because I did do a transfer here in my Roth IRA. That's down to almost $400 year to date now, and $300 of that was today. So not a great day today. And you can see the individual account did very badly as well. I got a little excited on that big up move after the announcement. I thought that was going to be basically everything we got out of the Fed meeting today. I thought it would be more in line with expectations. Then we got those additional comments from Jay Powell, and it wasn't exactly what everyone wanted to hear. So down almost 10 points here on the NASDAQ. So I lost a little more than I like to lose when the market goes down. I try to lose less than $1 for every dollar that the NASDAQ goes down. You can see I lost $16 here for every dollar that it went down, a little bit more than expected. And then the IWM, not as bad. IWM went down $6. I only lost $300 here in my IRA, so that's more in line with where I like to be. Otherwise, I'm going to be making up that ground here on some covered calls. I sold 3 covered calls, and I was selling them throughout the day to help compensate for some of those losses. I rolled those 75 calls that I had going into the day down all the way to 268, and those expired worthless. And I also sold calls for Friday at 268 for $2.50 each, and 3 contracts of that. So collected around $750 in credit for Friday to help make up some of these losses. Hopefully the market rallies. I can still gain some money if the market rallies. The stock was at 265.68 to close. So if we rally all the way up to 268, I'll still make some profit on the shares. and then the additional $750 on those call contracts, and that would be good. I also positioned some puts down around that 260 level where I expect to find support, and then I have the 272 and 274 put contracts that I'm going to get assigned on, which is what these covered calls are sold against. Basically, I'm playing defense with some covered calls now to help protect myself to the downside and hopefully capture a little bit of upside if we do see a rally after this big down move going into Friday. Let me know down in the comment section what you think the market's going to do after this Fed announcement, and definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.